All right, guys, we're getting back into our injustice essay. We've already done parts 1 through 4, and today we're going to be opening up part 5. We're going to be writing our conclusion. So how this is going to work is the same way the other parts have worked. When you're an English teacher, it can sometimes be difficult finding ways to do UDL when the product has to stay the same. We don't have an option about teaching writing. Writing cannot be done in a lot of different ways when you're having to teach formal writing. And so what you do in those situations, you realize that the barrier can't be overcome in the product. You have to find a way to overcome barriers in the process.
In this one, it's my opinion, right?
Yeah,
Or no?
this is an argument paper, so your opinion is what we're looking at.
I was gonna put my opinion is that, and then I was gonna write the rest.
Yeah, because remember what your conclusion, now that you've restated your thesis, all you're going to do is go back and summarize your argument. So that is giving your opinion. This lesson is for 8th grade English, and right now we're working on writing arguments. And so our learning intention was for the students to be able to write a claim, support it with evidence and sound reasoning, and to be able to do that using transitions, writing a counter argument, and then following up with a conclusion statement, which is a big standard, which has a lot of barriers, which is why it's perfect for introducing UDL strategies. So how this is going to work is the same way the other parts have worked. I've recorded a mini lesson of walking you step by step of how to write the conclusion. You're allowed to rewind it as many times as you need, follow along with me. You can use your notes. I recommend you use your notes to help you write your conclusion, but that's the very last part of our informational essay. So you're going to go ahead and get your headphones out, not just yet, but we're going to get our headphones out. We're going to watch the video, and we're going to be writing our informational essay conclusion at the same time, but we're all going to be doing it kind of independently in our own silos, just like we did the other parts. When you're considering barriers for writing, like I did for this assignment, you have to remember first that the barriers are not within the student. The barrier are things in the environment that I'm able to help them overcome by giving them a resource. Barriers are things that happen in my space that I have control over and things that I am able to help them find a way through. And so some of the barriers that you have when you have a product that is solid, like writing, is the difference in skill level. We have different skill levels. It's a barrier that happens through scheduling. That's just something that happens in a school. You'll have multiple skill levels in the same room. Another barrier that I have to consider is language. This is a language arts class, and everyone in this space does not speak English at the same level of proficiency. Again, that has to do with scheduling. That's not a kid problem. That's just the way school works. And so I have to think about ways, how can I overcome that barrier? I also have to remember that writing is extremely complex. When you're writing, you are dealing with so many different skills and so many different obstacles you have to overcome in different ways that it can be overwhelming. It's a very large process. And so the largeness of it, the pure bigness of writing an informational or an argumentative essay can be a barrier, especially when you're doing it over a long period of time. And I also have to consider time. Time is a barrier. Another barrier that can become a really big problem, especially for those of us who teach middle grades, are environmental distractions. When you're doing something like writing, it requires intense focus. And focus can be difficult for a lot of different reasons. And it's not a problem within the student, it's a problem when you're in groups of large people. I can't change that there are 36 kids in this room. There's nothing I can do about that. So what can I put into place to help make it so students can gain access to the learning despite there being 36 different people with 36 different sets of needs in this same space? So we have a bank of resources, just as a reminder to you. You can go through any of those resources and use what you need. So as a class, we're at step 5. So it doesn't matter if you're not at step 5. Maybe you were absent. Maybe you just type a little slower. Maybe you type super fast and you've been ready for us. Remember, we're writing at our own pace. So you're going to find the place that you are at, and that's where you're going to start working from. You have a couple of different ways you can do that. For each step, you have my mini lesson of me telling you step by step how to write that section. So if you're at conclusion, I know a lot of people in this class are ready to write the conclusion. You can write, just skip down to step 5 and start writing your conclusion. Or you can go to the sentence stems and use that to write the conclusion. Do you have to use my video? No, that's a choice. Do you have to use my sentence stems? No, that's a choice. These are resources that you have available to you, but you don't have to use them. One of the barriers I mentioned is sometimes language can be a barrier because everything is done in English. And one thing that I have done to help with that is having my sentence stem bank. Sentence stems are a way to make writing approachable for people who are struggling with comprehension, people who are struggling with basic writing skills, people who are struggling with language. And so my sentence stems are available for all of the paragraphs, but I also have them translated in Spanish because my goal is to teach the standard. It doesn't matter to me if they access the standard in English or in Spanish. What matters to me is that they access the learning and they can demonstrate the product. So if you need to go and see the writing in Spanish first and then look at how it looks in English and then be able to start writing, I just was able to give you something to help you overcome that barrier. And in the end, you're still able to come up with the same product. You're still able to demonstrate the same learning as everyone else in the room. So students oftentimes are taught to write and to produce in a silo and to do everything by yourself. And if you didn't, then you didn't do the good right thing. But writing and learning in general happens in community. And so that helps to overcome again that barrier of isolation and feeling alone. And I want my students to know that learning, and I say this in my classroom all the time, learning is collaborative. We do that together. Aristotle didn't talk to himself. He talked to large groups. They talked together.
That's my opinion. Yeah, that's my opinion.
When you're planning with UDL, it's really important to keep learner variability into mind. This is public school. When you come into a public school classroom, you're going to get everyone. We have to consider multilingualism. That's going to happen. You have to consider students who have learning disabilities, processing disorder, visual disabilities. These are all things that walk into our classroom every day and is not a problem of the learner. It's just a fact of working in public education. My job is teaching children. And that means I need to make sure that the people in my room can get what it is I'm putting out there for them. It's not about my content, it's about my learner. And so if I'm going to be successful in teaching, I need to be aware of who I'm teaching to. So can you see just looking at my bubble? You forgot the comma. Yeah, real simple. So just make sure when you look at my comment bubble that you just like give me a thumbs up and let me know you fixed it. By putting all these UDL processes in place, you're preparing yourself and you're preparing your learners so when it's time to actually get to work, we can actually get to work. That's the hard part of a teacher is, oh, there's all these things going on and I'm just gonna teach to the middle. I'm not teaching to the middle, I'm teaching to the children and they're gonna get there and we're all gonna get there together. We are about to write our conclusion. So first things first, let's look at our formatting.